الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is this mic? I think we're good.
This one's working and
Everything is working. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I've had a lot of occasions. I love teaching. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I've had a lot of occasions when I've walked into a room and realized that there should have been more people here. And you'll be surprised, actually, the popular opinion is that if a speaker walks into a room, they kind of feel like, oh, now I have to spend an hour and there's not enough people. But I don't belong to that school of thought, because I actually think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually chose these very specific people to be in this room today. And that speaks volumes, because an invitation by Allah is one of the most greatest invitations of all. And so usually if I'm walking into a room and there's 100 people in there, I'm like, all right, okay, alhamdulillah, that's good. They came. But when there's lesser people, I'm actually honored to be in the company of those people, because they were the chosen ones. And just like Dr. Zayhan said to you guys earlier, the waiting room for the catastrophe is always full, which is ironic, because my sessions, or like my ability to see clients, is always maxed out. So I'm usually most of the time turning people away. And it's surprising, because if you look at any of my coworkers or any of my colleagues, they'll all say the same thing. If you talk to any of the organizations, whether it's Canadian Muslim Counseling, whether it's Sakina Canada, whether it's the Nisa Foundation, whether it's Ruh, whenever you look at these organizations that are trying to operate therapy on the mass level, like they're trying to provide therapy for as many people as they possibly can, even they'll say the same thing, that we are stretched thin. We don't have enough practitioners to take on the caseload. Like, the caseload is too high. And what do you think happens when practitioners carry too much of the caseload? Their quality goes down, because it's just too much. It's too much to work, too many people to work with. You want to see as many people as you can in the week, and then the quality of the therapy declines. Now, the interesting thing is, why aren't we talking about prevention? Why aren't we talking about educating ourselves? And Dr. Zayhan's absolutely spot on about this. And I think we've talked about this over the years, that we're not able to fill rooms with marriage education, but yet people are shelling out thousands when it comes to the wedding day itself. It's just really unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we're not having the right, even though I'm assuming I'm going to call it the next generation, even though they have education on their fingertips through the form of their phones. But yet still we are not prioritizing things that need to be prioritized. And I'm assuming that this is probably happening because a 1-hour lecture might be too long to sit through. Maybe we need to start doing 30-second bites of information and then pushing that out into the world, because it seems like too much to learn, spend an hour, kind of learning about your marriage. But khair, alhamdulillah, again, as I said, I am honored to be here. It is always a blessing to come and visit different masjids. It's always a blessing to meet different people. And you guys are the selected chosen ones, so I am honored to be in your company. As we begin, inshallah, let me do a little bit of an introduction for myself. If you haven't been to one of my talks, if you haven't heard me speaking before, just so that you have an idea of who's with you on this wonderful Saturday afternoon. My name is Hina. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I'm a registered psychotherapist in Ontario, and my primary focus is marriage counseling. I specialize in the principles of Islamic counseling, and it allows me to be in that room with my clients, not just through the lens of psychology, but mainly rooted in what their responsibilities are as Muslims, as believers, and then adjusting the lens of psychology and psychotherapy with this Islamic awareness, which I always say this, and I'll continue to say this, you can't have us as Muslims work on ourselves by taking the Islam out of it. It just doesn't work that way. In order for us to thrive in our relationships, in our homes, in order for us to do well in our workplaces, as parents, you name it, in any form of us in our daily lives, we cannot thrive unless we have fixed the Islam portion of our lives. So I love working with the principles of Islamic counseling. I do have 24 years of marriage experience, but ironically it is with two different people. I've seen the other side. I've seen what it looks like to end a marriage. I've seen what it looks like to restart your life, to blend a family and get remarried. So when I talk about marriage and I talk about the importance of holding it together, I don't just come at it from my own knowledge of it, but I also come at it from my experience of what it feels like when things don't go the way that you had intentionally planned them to be. I have 4 children. They're all adults. I can't call them kids anymore because they're all adults. In fact, one of them actually got married. I don't think I got a chance to tell you this. One of them got married in February, so I am now a new mother-in-law, which is also a very exciting new chapter of our lives. I'm a sports enthusiast. I love all kinds of sports. I tell everybody that I become a super fan when the game gets serious. So not during the group stage, but later on, I'm a serious sports fan. You could put me in front of any playoff game and I can be as hyped as like the OG fans. I love watching sports of all kinds. And the one thing that I am absolutely most passionate about is improving Muslim marriages. This is my livelihood. It is the thing I am most excited about in life. I apply all the principles that I teach. I actually apply them into my own marriage. So I know that all the tools that I work with are tried and tested. It actually works. And then, mashallah, I get a chance to implement it and teach it to other people. So today, let's get grounded in our vision. I feel like one of the most important things as believers, as Muslims, one of the most important things that we can do is to start off with intentionality, like having intention of why we are here. We've taken time out. It's the weekend. Everybody has lots of things to do, but we are all here in this space to share in a very important conversation. And inshallah, by the will of Allah, I'm able to impart some wisdom today. But before we jump into the stuff, are you guys okay with people participating a little bit? Are we a participating audience, or are we more of a don't call on me, put my hands down type of audience? I'm gonna throw it out there. Let's see what lands. Because if nobody answers, at least my husband will, because he kind of has to. All right. So why are you here? What made you show up today? Should I do ladies first and pick on the girls? Don't say somebody forced me. That's not a nice answer. I don't want to hear that. Why are you here today? All right, sure. Okay, to work on her marriage for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, may you achieve that target. Ameen. What about you guys? Why are you here?
I saw the poster and I felt like I had to be.
Oh, so that's invited by Allah. I love it. She said she saw the poster. She felt she had to be here. You want to answer as well? We'll get a hat trick. Three girls. Okay, good. I like it. Growth mindset. That's actually the most important thing. How about the gentleman? Anybody else want to answer? Why are you here today? Because then otherwise Riz is going to have to answer. I'll ask the younger guy.
Just to gain a little bit more knowledge on Muslim marriages.
Okay, good. The gentleman in the back, do you want to answer? Or you're like, don't pick on me?
This marriage, just improving your
mashallah. Inshallah, may Allah grant you guys more of what you intended to come here with. Again, as I said, I love teaching talking about marriages and teaching about marriages. So today the focus is ihsan, like excellence in our relationship.
Can I also just add something?
Yeah, of course.
I think that Sister Hina uses a very nice one sentence, which I've kind of taken to heart, where she says, in marriage, you're always growing.
Yeah.
Either you're growing away or you're growing towards. So I think if you look at it that way, it's not complicated to remember. It applies to pretty much everything, but I think in particular, I like that statement because it's easy for me to remember. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said that because, Dr. Zayhan's not giving away his age, but he's been married a bit. It's like that you can't check out. It's a relationship that you can't check out of. And we're going to keep talking about this, inshallah, as we progress. So I've done a lot of these surface level talks where I'm like, yeah, do this and do that and marriage will be great. and it's just depending on the audience, because as Dr. Zayhan mentioned, I've come here a couple of times. So when I was preparing for this workshop, I was like, you know what? I can't do the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s with these guys anymore because we've gotten a lot further, I'm hoping, or more deeper in the conversation. So let's actually take it a level further. Like, let's really push the envelope and be like, okay, what's really gonna work? Because we don't want to just be married. It's not just about clocking through the days and saying, okay, well, we've reached our 5th anniversary, now we've reached our 7th anniversary, now we've reached 25 years. It's not about those milestones that we're just clocking time. It's actually about the day to day, morning to evening, how we are benefiting in the relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated so far up. One of the things that I have said before, I'm going to repeat it for everybody's benefit. Don't take this relationship lightly. Don't take it for granted, because Allah has already shown you how important your marriage is. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, in His infinite wisdom, Allah could have created any relationship, but chose the relationship between the husband and a wife. Valued it and honored it. Ibrahim alayhi salam travels to the city of Mecca to establish the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Travels with who? His father, his best friend? Who does he go with? This is where you guys are supposed to answer the question, guys. Come on. His wife. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses His wife to be His companion. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, beloved in his community, gets revelation with Angel Jibreel alayhi salam for the first time. He's panicked, he's worried, he doesn't know what's going on. Who does he go to? His uncle? His cousin? Who does he go to? His best friend? Because he had all these wonderful relationships. Who does he go to? It's still the same answer, guys. He goes to his wife. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeatedly through the course of history shows us the value of the relationship between a husband and a wife. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us over and over again in dunya, in our relational life here in dunya as well, how important this is, because everybody leaves. Everybody leaves. You started working at a job, you left the job, you moved on to a new place when you got the promotion. Your parents, who are so beloved to you, who are there for you for your entire life as they are raising you, will eventually pass on. Your children that you raised with your own hands with this intention of giving them everything in the world will get married and move on as well. There's only one person that stays for the long run, and that's your spouse. So if you're not working on your marriage, and if you are not intentionally feeding health into this relationship, you're going to be a very lonely person. And that loneliness is an epidemic that actually exists in young marriages as well. People who've been married for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years will tell you we're just really lonely. Even though Allah has blessed me with companionship, I still feel very lonely. So today's focus is really just rooting ourselves into excellence. I don't want to just be married. I want to be married with ihsan. I want to be married with the best that I can provide for my partner and what I can receive, inshallah, from my partner. So right now, I kind of was trying to talk to you guys a little bit about regular marriages. We get married, we're very excited, there's a fancy party, a beautiful dress, a husband at the end of it, we have a big dinner, and then what happens? What happens the next day, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after that? As we progress in life, we all go into what we call survival mode. Survival mode is, I'm gonna do what I have to do in order to get what I want to get. That's it. I just want to survive. So this is where you're going to see that everybody is now very transactional. I am good to you because you are good to me. I will do this for you because you do that for me. I'm going to plan my time with my partner and say, okay, you know what? I'll cook this today, or I'll invite his family over on that day. Everything is kind of calculated. The husband's always calculating what time do I have to spend with her? How much money do I have to spend on her? Everything becomes very transactional. And the one thing that you lose in a transactional relationship is emotional intimacy. The closeness of the hearts, the closeness, in fact, you know what? Actually, let me skip the hearts. The closeness of your souls with each other. You miss out on a deep, meaningful connection because everything is about something else. And these transactional relationships are actually eating away at the whole Islamic ideology of marriage, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elevated. and then describe to us. Everybody's familiar with Surah Rum. Everybody knows how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has respected that ayah in the Quran that repeatedly reminds us of the thing, the concept of sakina, mawadda, and rahma, the recipe for success in any relationship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't really said to us, oh, do things, be a good husband if she is a good wife, or be a good wife if he takes care of XYZ. That's not it. It's actually about yourself. And your spouse becomes a vehicle for you to get closer to Allah. Either by being a blessing or by being a test. But your ultimate love story is not with your partner. Your ultimate love story of achieving closeness and attachment and feeling fulfillment is actually with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your partner just becomes a means to it. So when you start looking at your marriage from that lens and from that perspective, that this is not about give and get. This is not about 50-50. This is about ihsan, the best version that I can be of myself. And then we talk about what does it benefit us with? It provides us with emotional safety. It provides us with growth. And the most important thing, a deeper spiritual companionship. That you are not just my companion in dunya. We're not just here to pass our time and go on another vacation or try out that new restaurant. That's not the intention. Yes, it is a benefit, and if Allah has blessed you with it, then go on the vacation and go to the restaurant and not a problem. This is all good. But that's not the purpose. Don't lose focus of what the companionship is intended to be. It is to be spiritual growth. A person that leads you to Jannah is far better for you than the one who leads you around the world. And so we have to stop, take that pause, take account to ourselves and say to ourselves, okay, what is our intention of being married? Why am I with a person anyway? Why am I married? Forget this person. Why am I married to any person? Why am I even doing this every single day of my life? Waking up, shampoo, rinse, repeat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, 1 load of laundry, 2 loads of laundry. No. You got it all wrong. All of that is a byproduct of a beautiful blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided in the form of a spouse and children. So going just beyond our own survival mode and really focusing our energy and attention on what is actual thriving. Okay, now while we sit here and talk about all these wonderful ideologies of let's thrive in our relationships, let's create excellence, I want you to be aware, because the intelligent people, people of knowledge, the people of hikmah, of wisdom, are the ones who have awareness. And I don't want to miss out on that, because we have to be aware of what's actually attacking our marriages negatively. If we don't acknowledge what is actually getting in the way, then we put on some blinders. And what happens when you put on not even blinders, let's just say that we blindfold ourselves and try to walk through any situation, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, you're going to injure yourself. Take off the blinders and start paying attention to what's actually attacking your relationship. I'm going to go through this list really quickly because I think a lot of people have already discussed this. We've talked about it. People are very familiar with what is how our relationships are under attack. Culture versus religion. I come from the Pakistani culture. We're very specific people. Our relationships are very dictated by the culture, not by our religion. So that always gets into the way of thriving in a relationship, is that am I trying to please my parents or my culture, or am I trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having awareness of that. The social media effect. A phone is a cancer to your relationship. Don't tell me that I'm only watching Islamic content. It's great that you are, but your phone is still toxic for your marriage. Then we have the shifting roles and responsibilities. The world is no longer the husband is the provider and the wife is the caretaker. It's not like that anymore. Things have changed significantly. Women are successful in the workplace. There's this need for a dual income. There's multiple reasons why families are struggling with just financial and gender roles, because now we're confused. We don't know who's supposed to be doing what. Then we're facing a lot of isolation and stigma, especially in this part of the world. We don't belong to that collectivist culture anymore, that my aunt and my uncle and my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister-in-law are all part of my family system. It's not like that. We're all by ourselves. So that means that when something is threatened in our relationships, we have to figure it out by ourselves. We don't have a support system like we did. And then the support system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent in the form of imams and therapists and, just counselors, we've put stigma on them that, if I go to therapy, that means my marriage must be really messed up. That must be something must be wrong. We must be crazy. And that's, if you've been to any mental health workshop, you know that is not true. Everybody can benefit from learning and guidance and support. Everybody can benefit. Then we've got the spiritual drift. We're not practicing anymore. Our masjids are empty. Our restaurants are full. I was going to say nightclubs, but I'm hoping that nobody here is like that. But that's the problem. Our youth are not attending programs. Nobody wants to learn. We don't want to be spiritually embedded in anything. We want to go for token events, and you'll notice that things like RIS and things like Al-Maghrib classes and things like that, you'll find a lot of crowd there. But that's not because of, I'm sorry, I know you guys are going to post this online. I'm not saying anything negative about that. But I'm just saying that they want to go there for the vibe. They want to go there for the culture. They don't want to sit down and seriously lock in and say, oh, I got to study about this. The knowledge retreat at RIS is like what? A handful of people versus the thousands that come to the actual conference. It's something for us to think about as a community. Okay, then we've got this hypersexualized culture. It's a threat to our marriages because it doesn't matter if our men are lowering their gaze, their phone is in their hand, and that's just as corrupt as what's happening around them. And I'm not going to call out the men, even the women. This is a very dangerous time that we live in. Everything sneaks into our system. The shaitan sneaks into our system to create dissatisfaction, whether it is physical dissatisfaction with our wives or it's emotional dissatisfaction through our husbands. Everybody is dissatisfied because there's an image out there of something that is more grander and more amazing and more beautiful. Then what Dr. Zehan and I have probably got, our throat has gone dry talking about lack of education. Just nobody wants to learn. Nobody wants to be prepared. We have all the money to spend on flowers at the wedding, but we don't have a couple of hundred to spare for a class. Alhamdulillah, the result is in front of us. And then the last couple of things, the untreated mental health issues, people who have issues that are pre-existing from marriage before they got married and they weren't treated, they weren't able to come into the marriage as healthy individuals. And then finally, the me versus us ideology. It's all about me. I need to be happy. I need to be satisfied. I need to post online. I need the world to look at me, and we're forgetting the whole concept that there's whole other person in our marriage. It's not just about ourselves. So be aware of what is under attack. And I'm not going to say that your relationship in particular has all of these, but definitely most of these are threatening your relationship, and you need to know and you need to be aware of them so you guys can talk about them as couples and really address the issues. Okay, so now...
Is that something, and I'll just give you a break also. I do find one of the things is the feeling that everything is replaceable.
Oh gosh, yes.
You can just change it because, hey, it's not working for you.
It's just get another one.
Component, that desire to give it that bit harder effort, I've noticed this is something very common now.
And it's getting more and more common because previously people used to put some kind of work into put some kind of effort into the work they were doing. Now with AI and the advent of all this other ease in our lives, everything is now as quick and as simple and as fast as how quickly can I get there? And I mean, we're not going to run into this, we're not going to do a conspiracy theory tangent, but the whole idea behind don't use your brain. Okay, just dumb it down. Have somebody else think of it for you or have AI do it for you. It's a huge threat to our society. So, just by understanding the Islamic concept of marriage, we should be able to reframe it in a healthier way. When we start understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this relationship between a husband and a wife as a sacred covenant, it's a very special moment, that moment when you actually get married to somebody. When you can't promise your partner anything, it's not in your control. So what are you promising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What's this big promise that you're making the day you're getting married? There's only one thing that you're promising, that I'm going to protect the heart of this person. That's it. That's the promise. You are promising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I will be the caretaker of this person's heart. That in my hands, under my care, this person will not struggle, will not suffer. I will be there to support them. And that's the only thing you can really promise, because everything else is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's really false promises if you're trying to tell somebody you can give them more. You can't. It doesn't belong to you. It is in the hands of Allah Almighty. The only thing you are making a promise is of your character, your adab, your ikhlaq, that I will be a good person to this individual as they enter my life. And that is something I want you guys to really hold close to your heart. that marriages are not big promises of a lifestyle and luxury. Marriages are built and established on emotional safety. And marriages that are emotionally safe are successful ones, because that goes the distance. Okay, so that being said, what's the recipe for success? So sign me up. I want that marriage that Sister Hina is talking about. This is the one. I want to create something like that. Sure. What's the recipe for success for a healthy marriage? I've broken it down into 4 tools that I teach in therapy. When people, if you were to come to see me in counseling, and if you wanted to build an exceptional marriage, this is not us trying to put out a fire. Okay, so this is not us, you coming to me and saying, oh my God, we have problems with conflict and communication and all that. No, this is just you saying, teach us how to be happily married. Teach us how to be in a better relationship. The best way to achieve that, the best pathway, is to learn ways of doing things better, to learn ways of being more effective and more efficient in your relationship. Don't pick the hard way. You don't have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not, you're not getting brownie points for choosing the hardship. Choose the easy way. If Allah has given you knowledge and wisdom through the Quran and through the Sunnah, and you're not using it to benefit your marriage, that's on you, because Allah's already provided everything you need. So we're going to talk about the 4 core tools that I teach when I talk to couples about being exceptional. The first of them is the triple A's. You come to me and you say to me, Hina, fix my relationship in 2 weeks. I don't have a lot of time. Either it gets better or I call the divorce lawyer. And that's a tall ask, because I'm like, oh, I wish you had called me like years ago. But okay, all right, alhamdulillah, I'm up for a challenge. Let's see what I can do. This is the first and the most important thing that I teach people, the triple A's. What I refer to this is the fard of your marriage. Okay, if you're not praying your sunnahs and you're not praying your nafils, you gotta pray your fard. You gotta start somewhere. You have to begin with something. And this is what I call the fard of your marriage. If you are not doing the absolute basic requirement here, then you're losing out on building something that is beautiful and meaningful. The triple A's are attention, affection, appreciation. Every single day that you are with your partner, actually not even physically with, every single day that you are married, you need to provide your relationship with attention. You need to provide your relationship with affection and appreciation. Attention means put it all down. Put your phone away, switch off the television, put the children to bed. Give your partner a little bit of time so that you both are aware of each other's universe. And I know I get men are like, oh, but she keeps talking and then it turns into an hour and then it's a conflict and she brings this up. And I'm like, oh, time out. This is not conflict resolution. This is not communication about, oh, your mom did this or your sister said that. No, or the kids. No. Just recap your day. Both partners need to have awareness of each other's day. How are you? Where are you in your emotional, mental bandwidth? How was it? Was it a bad day? Was it a good day? Did you have a successful outcome of something, or did you struggle with something? As husband and wife, you need to know how your partner's day was, even the boring, mundane stuff that I got stuck in traffic. I'll take it, because I need to know as a wife what my husband's day looked like. I need to know if he got stuck in traffic. I should know if the coffee order got messed up and the wrong one was given. That is something you should know. And I know it sounds like, oh, well, why is she talking about such silly little small things? It's not, though, because this is the building block of I know you. Because I know that if somebody messed up your coffee order, it probably messed up your day a little. And if you got stuck in traffic, it impacted your mood. It gives me insight, deep, meaningful insight on who I am meeting after the day is done. So give each other time and attention and just talk about a recap. Here's who I met. Here's who called. You'll never believe what I saw. That kind of stuff. But be aware of each other's worlds. The second thing is affection. We are a very, I want to say, it's a mixed gathering, so I want to be respectful with it. Our religion has encouraged intimacy and affection, and we have suffocated it in our marriages. So a religion that promotes active closeness with your partner through the examples that the Prophet ﷺ has set for us of intimacy in his home, connection with his wives, how we are encouraged to be a very hands-on physical relationship with our partners where it is halal. A number of people will be all hands on pre-marriage, and then after marriage, there's nothing happening. I don't get it. Be affectionate. Be affectionate with your words and be affectionate with your actions. Don't be shy in your own marriage. The sky is the limit. You know how, if you've taken a class around intimacy, you should know what is acceptable and what isn't. But be in a hands-on relationship. Say wonderful, sweet things to your partner. Hand-holding, hugging, kissing, cuddling. This is so important. In order to achieve optimal mental health, you need 10 points of affectionate physical touch every single day. 10 points of affectionate touch, which can include anything like, scratching of hair, holding hands, hugging, cuddling, you name it. But 10 points of affectionate physical touch. And the last thing is appreciation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has repeatedly encouraged us to practice gratitude. If you are grateful, I will increase you. Be grateful. Be grateful for the small things. Start noticing the little things that your partner does for you. And it'll completely transform the relationship, because it is in the shadows of the unseen things that relationships really thrive. It's in the parts that, I didn't even realize that you would notice this about me, where marriages really flourish. Because every single time a person feels seen, they are encouraged to do more. Every single time. If I am appreciated, I will want to show up. If I am not appreciated, I might show up begrudgingly and forcefully, but the heart isn't involved. Now it's just transactional again, and it takes out the barakah. So the first and the most important thing, start with the triple A's: attention, affection, appreciation. The next thing is rituals of connection. Every relationship needs patterns and familiarity. Every relationship needs rituals. Things that we do repeatedly over and over again. And I'm going to actually draw a comparison to Salah. I know I did it with the triple A's. I'm going to do it with the rituals of connection. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mandate Salah 5 times a day? And over again. Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, all throughout the day. Why? I mean, we're believers. We're Muslims. We remember Allah. So why make Salah fard upon us? As a form of reconnection with Allah. As a form of reconnection. Who benefits when we pray? Does Allah benefit from our salah? No. Allah doesn't need our salah. Who benefits? We do. We benefit when we reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We benefit. It spiritually recharges us. It grounds us. And we could do a whole session on the benefits of salah and how it impacts your mental health. But salah is a form of reconnection throughout the day. And so if we mirror that to our marriage, we need rituals of connection over and over again that are reliable, that we can look forward to. When children are surveyed about their childhood, and they're asked, what was your favorite part of childhood, or what was something that you remember the most, they'll always talk about the things that were done over and over again. They'll talk about Eid day traditions. They'll talk about summer beach trips. They'll talk about going to their grandparents' house. They'll talk about something that happened in repetition. It's very rare that they will talk about a solitary incident that was my favorite part of childhood. Okay? They'll always usually repeat back to you something that happened in repetition. So we need to build this in our marriages. Verbal rituals. Telling each other that we love each other before we leave the house. Talking to each other every single day, giving each other attention, listening to one another. Having rituals where we are speaking and connecting through our words. Then physical rituals. Whether it is cooking together, whether it's making, working in the garden together, whether it's going grocery shopping together, doing things together, going for a walk together, going to pray at the masjid together, and then habitual rituals, things that you do over and over again, like that cup of tea in the afternoon, maybe a games night at the end of the day, maybe just, going somewhere to a particular place at a particular coffee shop that you both like to visit. But doing things over and over and over again that creates stability, safety, and security. Because when you repeat good things, your brain tells you, oh, this is a good marriage. But when you start repeating fights and conflicts and disconnect, then your brain tells you this is not a good marriage. Okay. This is my favorite one. It's a least popular one because people are like, why do you think this is your favorite? But I'll explain it at the end. So I introduced this tool called State of the Union. State of the Union is basically your opportunity to talk about the mundane stuff with your partner. So now, one of the things that I've noticed over my course, and I've been in practice for over 10 years now, one of the things that I've noticed is that we litter our lives with just things, our to-do lists. So when I see my husband, rather than saying, hey, hon, how was your day? What are you up to? Or, what should we do later tonight after dinner? I'm going to take out that list and be like, oh, by the way, this needs to be fixed. This isn't out. You didn't do this. The garage needs to be emptied. What about the backyard? We need to mow the lawn. I'll litter my relationship with just these things that have to get done. And don't get me wrong, the things have to get done, gentlemen. We actually have to do the things on the to-do list. But the problem is that when we litter our lives with that to-do list, we rob ourselves of intimacy and connection. So the husband almost always feels like every time she sees me free and sitting down, she's going to give me something to do. And he doesn't like that. What if he just wants to sit down and do nothing with you? So that fear of, okay, or like he's going to see me and he's going to tell me what the kids did or what hasn't been done. And, we busy our conversations with just the stuff that has to get done. So I love introducing couples to this thing I call State of the Union. Pick a day of the week that works for you and be consistent. Put it in your calendars, block out the time, because that's the only way it's going to work. If you want it to work, you actually have to intentionally make it work for you by sitting down and doing something. Pick a time, a day of the week that works for you, and throughout the week, on your phones or on a shared Google app or anything like that, keep a running list of things that need to get done in the house. Don't talk about them every single day. Okay? If the car needs an oil change, if whatever, the light comes on well before time. Winter tires need to be changed. We know that when winter is coming, all of this stuff, it's not like I have to talk about it today. There are some things that do need to be talked about today, and that's okay, but not everything needs to be talked about today. So for the mundane day-to-day routine stuff, put it on a list, come to your State of the Union meeting and treat it like a business meeting. Both of you sit down with your phones or whatever you are using to keep tabs on things, and divide and delegate. Everybody play to your strength. If I'm good at something, I should be taking care of that task. If my husband is better at something, he should be taking care of that task. But divide and delegate. And so then you order your list and you say, okay, let's say, for example, there's 10 things that need to get done. Husband will do 6. I'm going to do 4. I'm going to label my tasks out of importance. What's the most important thing down to the least important thing. And now I have my tasks for the week. A lot of wives love this tool because their husbands have to be accountable. So that thing that was supposed to get done 6 months ago actually finally does get done because he's ashamed bringing it back to State of the Union, and his list starts growing and he's like, oh my God, I actually should do something. So it really turns out to be an effective way to have accountability as well. And then what I normally say is that when you first start doing it, you'll have a lot of tasks because there's a lot of backlog of things. But once you become efficient at it, usually there shouldn't be more than 3 to 5 tasks a week for each partner. But the other really great thing is that when you come back week after week, if there is a task that isn't getting done, we should address why it's not getting done. Okay, like what's getting in the way? What's holding us back? Can I help you? Can I support you? Can we just do this job together if it's not getting done by one person? So what kind of support can we provide? It gives everybody a clean visual. And then you check mark everything. You come back to the next week's State of the Union and you say, oh, look, I got this done, I got this done, I got this done, but here are the new things that need to happen. Treat it like a business meeting. It'll take all the clutter from your day-to-day of like talking about what isn't done in the house, and it will just kind of neatly put it into one consolidated day. And a lot of the times it's so surprising because, as I said, I've tried and tested this, so I'm not bringing you pipe dreams, okay? I'm bringing you stuff that actually works. I've had couples say that they're far more efficient throughout the week just because they have eyes on it now. That now the husband has a list and he can just look at the list and say, okay, rather than being reminded by the wife every other day, now he just has the list to look at, and then he knows what he needs to do and she knows what she needs to do. And I'm not trying to pick on the guys, but guys, like women, do tend to check off things off their list better than men. So it's a thing, it's a work in progress. But the good thing is that as long as there's a visual, there's a support system, and then because there is a meeting at the end of every week, there is accountability of whether stuff is getting done. Okay. Actually, hold on. Let me go back to this for a second. All right. So as I mentioned to you, people are like, this is unpopular. Why put this in a thriving marriage? Why is this important? It's just a to-do list. And I tell you, hold on a second. It's this very to-do list that destroys the closeness in your emotional connection. Because as I mentioned earlier, every time you see each other, when you get into that surviving mode in marriage, every time you see each other, it's all about barking out orders. It's not about connection and it's not about closeness. It's really just about telling each other what isn't done and what needs to be done, and criticism and so on and so forth. So just this simple change actually elevates your emotional connection, because if you start doing this regularly, now your partner is not avoiding seeing you like, oh my God, if you see me, you're just going to tell me more to do. Or like, I mean, this is a true story. I've had actually people say to me that I pretend to be asleep at night. When she comes to the room, or when he comes to the room, I'll be on my phone scrolling, and as soon as I hear him walking up the stairs or hear her walking up the stairs, phone's down, I'm like pretending to sleep. Because I'm afraid that if we start talking, she's gonna just tell me more to do, or he's gonna just start complaining about things. So I just want to avoid that. So what this does is it just literally untangles emotional intimacy for you. It allows you to be close to each other and have lots of time and lots of room for connection and closeness, and just consolidates your to-do list into this nice little tidy hour of your time throughout the week. And then, as I mentioned, makes it so much more efficient. Okay. The last of the tools is the couple care plan. This is actually interesting because when I teach self-care and I teach self-regulation, I introduce people to the self-care plan, and it is absolutely identical to what you are seeing in front of you. In order for us to live a holistically healthy life, it's not just about your physical health. Okay, it's not just about the diet and the exercise. It's not just about that. It is about that for sure. Physical health is very important to our overall health, but that's not the only type of health we should have eyes on. In order to be a holistically healthy person, there are 6 areas that you need to have focus on. Number 1 is your physical body, because if your physical body is not working the way that it should be working, then none of the others apply. So that's why I've put that first. To the point that yes, if your physical body is in trouble, it actually has a spiritual impact on you. So we have to take care of ourselves. Our bodies are an amana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we put into them, how we treat them, overall has an impact on what we can do with them. The second thing is your spiritual health. How are you connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What are the ways that you are connecting with Allah? How are you growing in your deen? Again, not the mundane transactional, if I am a good Muslim, Allah will reward me. Not that kind of Islamic practice. But reaching excellence. How am I learning about my religion? How am I becoming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through my day-to-day practices? How am I becoming better than I was before? Then your mental health. Mental health is about your brain. What am I feeding my brain? What kind of content am I consuming? What kind of TV shows am I watching? What kind of friends am I surrounding myself with? What's happening to my mental health? And how am I, the flip side of that is, how am I growing in my mental health? What kind of books am I reading? What kind of lectures am I attending? What courses am I signing up for? How am I growing my brain? Then it comes to emotional health. How am I taking care of the condition of my emotions? Emotions are very real. Being in therapy doesn't mean emotional bypassing. It actually means emotional awareness. How am I taking care of my feelings? If I'm finding myself to be often sad, how am I taking care of that? If I'm finding myself angry all the time, what am I doing? How am I managing that? How am I taking care of my emotional health? And then the entire spectrum of emotions. I need to have emotional awareness, and then I need to practice better hygiene to have better emotional health. Next is social health. Who am I surrounding myself with? Am I spending enough quality time with my parents, my siblings, my children, my spouse? Am I taking care of people around me? Am I surrounding myself with healthy company? Where am I socially going? Are my social gatherings always all just about fashion and clothes and trends and sports, or am I actually benefiting the people that I'm sitting with and they are benefiting me? And then finally, just practical. This is what I call none of the above. So if you can't fit something into one of the 5 categories above, then it all goes into practical. These are the kinds of things that you are doing that are overall wellness for you as an individual. It's as simple as taking a hot shower, clean bed sheets, a cup of tea, getting a massage, you name it. Like, it's any kind of personal wellness that leads to it's personal habits that lead to overall wellness. Now take this entire plan and do something with your partner in each of these categories. So if I am practicing overall wellness with my partner, it's not just about healthy conversations and cuddles and kisses. It's a lot deeper than that. Are we taking care of our physical health together? Do we go on walks together? Do we go to the gym together? Are we taking a course on jiu-jitsu or karate or anything like that? How are we helping ourselves physically? Are we cooking healthy meals together? Are we sharing recipes on Instagram without actually making them? Or are we actually going to the grocery store, getting some ingredients, cooking healthy meals together and turning it around for our entire family because we're focused on our health? Then spiritually, what are we doing for our spiritual health? Are we attending halakas together? Are we reading the Quran together? Are we listening to tafsir together? Are we growing spiritually as a couple, or is he doing his thing and she's doing her thing, but there's really no connection between the two of them? And then mental health. Don't let your relationship rot away with doom scrolling. Take account of what content you're consuming, what books you're reading. One of the things that I recommend in therapy a lot, and I'm sure Dr. Zayhan will introduce you to these books. Get a book that you read together, and not like some kind of fictional novel. A meaningful book, self-help, growth, development. Get a good book together, but read it simultaneously. And on Post-it notes, leave notes for each other. Highlight things in the book and point things out and, put stars next to things and so on and so forth. So he reads a chapter a day and she reads a chapter, or he reads in the night and she reads in the morning. Read the same book at the same time and see how effective it is to learn and grow together, and then later on have conversations about your learning. Don't just learn and let it stop. Utilize this as a launch pad for communication later on. Talk to me about what you learned. What did you love? One of the things that my husband always does after every Jummah is he asks us in the car, okay, so what did you love about the khutbah? And he asks all of us. So now we have to pay attention. You can't zone out, because he's going to sit in the car and the first question he's going to ask is, what did you like about the khutbah today? So you're like, oh, okay, I should actually pay attention and I should actually listen because I have to talk about it later on. So start developing habits together where you're growing your mind, and it's not just limited to your personal growth, but your relationship growth as well. Emotional is my favorite part. What I mentioned to you guys earlier at the very beginning of the session, when you entered into this contract with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you only had that one responsibility, to take care of the emotional landscape of your partner. So when it comes to emotional care, give each other time, listen to one another. Don't try to solve every problem that your partner presents. There's a very simple way of addressing your partner's needs when they want to talk to you. You ask them a simple question: comfort or solution? If your partner says, I need comfort, don't give them any solution. Just listen to them and validate them. That's all they're looking for. But if they ask you for a solution, then bring out everything you got and help them figure out how they're getting through. But a lot of the times, it's really interesting. A lot of the times people will come into therapy, and I've had sessions where the client will come in and she'll be talking, or he'll be talking, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not even getting a word in edgewise. It's just the person I'm with is just talking. And at the end of the session, they're like, oh, that was such a good session. And I'm like, whoa, I did nothing today. But the person, all they needed was just to offload. The person just needed to vent. They just needed to get it out of their system. And we need to create those spaces in our marriages where our partner just has room to vent and just talk about their struggles and their hardships and their difficulties, and for us to hold space, a safe space to say, it's okay for you to emotionally offload to me, because I'm not going to criticize you and I'm not going to teach you something, or I'm not going to tell you something. I'm just going to be there for you and say, yeah, you know what, that sounds really rough. What can I do right now that's going to help make it better? Because that's most of the time, that's all what people really need is just support. And then socially, do things together with your partner. You know, go out there and do things. Go on date nights, even if it's simple. You know how many times people will sit in therapy and they'll be like, yeah, but everything is so expensive. Who said that dates had to be expensive? They just have to be intentional. That's it. Get a shawarma and sit on Lakeshore and talk and spend time with each other. That's good enough. If you can't afford the shawarma, no problem. Get a cup of tea. It doesn't matter. It's not about the money of where you're going and how much you're spending. It's what you're doing together, the quality of time you're spending, but intentionally, not amongst the chaos of life, but really taking time out for each other. And then in social, I will always say, you know, surrounding yourself with company that is going to benefit the marriage. And then finally, practical, whatever else you can think of, please spend time with your partner creating rituals that you will do over and over again with each other. Things that you will do over and over that will create that sense of safety and security and give you something to look forward to. Because after a long, hard day, if you have a healthy relationship to fall back on, it's going to be a ripple effect in everything else in your life. If you are happily married, you will be a better parent. If you are happily married, you'll be a better son, a better daughter. If you are happily married, you will give back to your community. If you are happily married, you will excel in work. But if I take that one relationship away from you, if you are unhappily married, your workplace will suffer, your relationship with your parents will suffer, your parenting will suffer, and you're not going to be a contributor to the community because you're constantly trying to put out fires in your own home. The only thing you have bandwidth for is just to get through this marriage. And that's not what Allah had intended it for be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended your marriage to be a place of peace, a place of comfort. And that's what we need to start focusing on creating so that inshallah, as we progress in our marriage, it's not just about passing time and just getting through another year or waiting until the kids have grown up. But it's actually building something that is so meaningful, that is so close to you, that you actually mourn the loss of that person and grieve their absence when you still have them, before they are actually gone. You know, one of the most beautiful things, and I mean, life and death is with Allah, so there's no correlation to it. Like, I'm not saying that this is something meaningful, but I'm just saying that when this happens, that like a husband passes away and then soon after the wife passes, or the wife passes and soon after the husband passes, like they were so emotionally connected. Sorry, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm saying life and death is from Allah. But they were so emotionally connected that the grief took over them. They just couldn't do it. The grief overtook them. And what marriage is that you can't live without that person? Like literally, you actually can't live without that person. How much beauty and barakah is in a relationship that you actually can't live without that person. And I usually say this to people that actually mourn their loss, or like mourn the time that you don't have with them, and grieve the loneliness while they are still alive, because it will teach you to value their presence when they actually come home. Now, relationships suffer mostly because we miss out on opportunities. Every single one of you, if you're married, if you're in this room, if you're married, you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. There are so many moments that you could connect with your partner, in a room with a stolen glance, at the end of the day with a hug or a kiss, presence and time, effort and intention. We just overlook it all because we're so tunnel vision. And this nowadays, we're so tunnel vision about making money, the hustle culture. And then after that, the disconnect culture, that, oh my God, I've been working hard so all day, all I want is just to veg on the couch and do nothing, or watch TV or scroll on my phone. And so what we do is that in all of this, we actually miss out on beautiful opportunities of actual meaningful connection. I don't know if you guys are familiar with John Gottman. Him and his wife have done a lot of work when it comes to the study of relationship psychology. And they'll tell you that people who are successfully married, that are happily married, 86% of the time, they turn towards their partner when their partner shows them that they need a bid for connection. And this is the part that gets missed very often. And I'm going to repeat to you a story that John Gottman tells. If you've heard it, then it's just a good refresher and a reminder. And if you haven't heard it, then listen carefully, because this is a very, very important thing for us to take away from somebody. So John and Julie Gottman, as I mentioned, they are the pioneers in relationship psychology. They've done a lot of work when it comes to developing tools and doing research and having evidence-based outcomes. And a lot of therapists follow their school of thought. A lot of therapists teach from what they have taught us. And so John Gottman, in one of his videos, he tells this story, and I hope I do justice to it. He says that he's reading a book, and he's come to the final chapter of this book, and he's very excited to finish it. He's gotten ready for bed, and he's done for the day, and he's really looking forward to getting into bed and reading the final chapter of this book. And right before he gets into bed to read this chapter, he goes to the bathroom to get a glass of water or whatever he's in the bathroom for. And his wife is standing facing the mirror, brushing her hair. And as he walks in, she just lets out a sigh. So he watches her combing her hair, and she just goes, that's it. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't even turn to look at him. And he has a decision to make. Either he can sneak back into the bed and finish that chapter he's been really, really looking forward to, or he can turn to his wife and say, hey, is everything okay? What's going on? And that's where relationship magic happens. In that split-second moment is where relationship magic happens. And I promise you, if you are on your phone or preoccupied with life and you're not paying attention, you will miss hundreds of opportunities to connect with your partner. It's in the little things that we often overlook. It's in those little things where the magic really happens. And I say this because I've seen it in hundreds of couples over the years that I've been working with them. I see it in my own marriage. If you stop paying attention to the small things, you just drift further and further and further apart. And then one day, your partner doesn't need you anymore. I don't need you to check in on me. I don't need your advice. I don't need your help. And there's nothing more unfortunate to a marriage than not being needed anymore. Nothing more unfortunate. What happens if you're not needed at work anymore? They fire you from the job. What's the point? Why are you even around? Why am I paying you a salary? Why am I investing in a person that I don't need anymore? If you want to safeguard your marriage from not being needed, then respond to the bids. The small moments that go unnoticed, now start paying attention and noticing them. Notice your partner at the end of the day. Notice when their tone of voice changes. Notice when they are acting anxious. Notice when they are overwhelmed. Notice when they're quieter than usual. If your partner talks a lot and one day you're like, why is it so quiet in the house? Don't just be like, oh, thank God it's quiet in the house. Like, well, why is it quiet in the house? Notice. Go deeper. Take that time out and say, hey, what's going on? You don't seem like yourself today. And I'll take it one level further because I'm actually guilty of this as well. When I'm going through emotional distress, I get confrontational. I become very argumentative. And it's an indicator to the people who know me that I'm usually a very calm person. I'm very chill. Let's solve our problems. Let's not argue. Let's not be snappy, practicing goodness of speech. That's my general norm. So if somebody who knows me well enough knows that if I'm being snappy, if I'm being argumentative, or if I'm irritated, that is indication that something is not right with me. It's the opposite, actually, of silence. So I'm not quiet. I'm actually almost like in your face now. And these are the nuances. If you know me, that's the day you should ask me, is everything okay? You don't seem like yourself today. You're usually not snappy. You're usually not angry. What's going on? Is everything all right? Rather than countering that argument with getting more angry, which is what we normally do in our relationships. If the wife gets snappy, the husband gets angry. That's not going to help. Somebody's got to regulate this mess. And the one who does it has greater reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So have that sense of awareness in your relationship. Know your partner so intimately that you can recognize when things are off. You know, when couples come into therapy and I'm like, okay, well, how do you know your wife is upset? Or how do you know your husband's upset? And the person doesn't have an answer. I'm like, oh boy. Now we have to teach you how to recognize emotional dysregulation in other people? How do you know your child is upset? They cry. They throw a tantrum. And then you go give them attention. And you don't yell at them and you don't get angry at them. Oh, you shouldn't, actually. I should correct that. Some parents do. You're not supposed to yell at them and you're not supposed to get angry at this masoom, like this poor child's upset and you're getting more upset. When your child is dysregulated, your job is to regulate in that moment. And it's exactly the same thing for your marriage. It's no different. When adults are in their childlike brain, when they're in their emotional brain, meeting them with more emotional angst is not going to help. It's not going to help if you're going to aggravate the situation. You notice that your partner is upset. Come to them as a place of refuge and a place of comfort. That's going to change the relationship. Now you're emotionally safe. I feel heartbroken. Women are very emotional, by the way. We're just built this way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us emotional. And the good thing is that because we're emotional, we're able to be mothers. Because it's a hard job to be a mom. And if we weren't emotional creatures, humanity would cease to exist because people would just die. If women did not respond emotionally and empathetically to their children, then we would just kill everybody off. But it is that emotional side that Allah has put in us that allows us to be good moms. It allows us to have raham, like mercy on our children. So when husbands get really overwhelmed by their wife's emotion, whether it's sadness or anger or overwhelm, I'll tell you, the best way to meet her emotion is with your calmness. Not with your emotion. Because if she's emotional and you're emotional, now the house is on fire. And so I give people this example of gasoline versus water. And it works both ways. I don't want to just, I don't want to put it on the shoulders of the men and say, well, women are written off, we're emotional, so we should never have to calm the situation down. No, absolutely, we should have that awareness as well. But when there is an emotional spark in your marriage, there's a little spark that lights up. In that moment, you get to make a choice. Do I want to pour gasoline on this spark, or do I want to pour water on this spark? If you pour gasoline on a spark, it explodes. It explodes. And when it explodes, you hurt, your husband or your wife hurt, your children hurt, the whole house is on fire. But if you see that spark, if you see that slight dysregulation in your partner, and rather than meeting it with gasoline, you meet it with water and you say, hey, listen, I'm here. You seem to be having a hard day. It's okay. Let me take care of things for you. Go take a seat. Sit down. Or let me know what's going to help. Actually, don't say sit down. To ask the person, what's going to help you right now? What can I do to support you better? Show up with ihsan. Don't show up in more conflict. That's never going to help your house. You're going to be that statistic of unhappy home. The happier homes are created when people actually take notice of these small moments. They pay attention to these small moments, and rather than retaliating with aggression, they reciprocate with mercy. Okay, now a couple more things and then inshallah we'll go to question and answers. Conflict is something that exists in every relationship. I'm not afraid of it. When people come and say, please help us so we don't fight anymore, I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. I mean, I can already tell you that you're going to have fights with your partner for the rest of your life. This is dunya, you're going to fight. That's the beauty. The beauty of actually fighting is making up with your partner. But you will always have conflict. This is life. Conflict happens. We're not afraid of conflict. We're actually more interested, more invested in how we are dealing with the conflict and what's happening to the relationship after the conflict. If you belong to the me versus you mindset, you're going to be the kind of person who blames and criticizes. It's your fault. You didn't do this. You don't do that. You're always this. You're never that. So it's always, again, in that transactional mindset. It's always going to be me versus you. I'm right. You're wrong. If you come from that collaborative approach, I don't want you to be wrong. Because see, the thing is that with the me versus you, if I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong, that means that the marriage is still failing. So you have to switch the conversation in your head to us versus the problem. So there is a conflict. There's an issue. How are we going to fix it? How are we going to solve it? What can I do to support you better? What can I do to show up for you better? How are we going to get through this together? And what it does is that me versus you and us versus the problem, that mindset shift allows us to feel less criticized, less blamed, less responsible, and more active towards actually resolution, getting somewhere. Because, couples have the same fight for their entire lives. They'll keep recycling the same fight. So here's a quick cycle to help you get more regulated. If you're finding yourself in the conflict cycle, you're finding yourself agitated, overwhelmed, you're finding yourself in that headspace where you're not being able to resolve things, the first thing is to notice what's happening. Take account of the emotions, don't avoid them. Find out what's going on with you. I'm yelling, I'm getting dysregulated, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling like overwhelmed, I want to cry, I want to whatever. Just take notice of what's actually happening. What is the emotional dysregulation looking like? Then take a pause. Take a minute. Not every problem needs to be solved in 1 second. Take a minute, take a pause, take a breather. Do things that the Prophet ﷺ has advised us of. Drink a glass of water, sit down, move around, make wudu. Take that moment to clear your head. It will help you switch from your emotional brain to your logical brain. Then take time out if you need to physically calm yourself. Sometimes we're not ready to have a conversation because we're emotionally overwhelmed. Take a minute, calm down. And when you calm down, the outcome of that 20 minutes that you're taking to calm down depends on what you're doing in that 20 minutes. If you're spending 20 minutes hating your partner and stewing over the problem, you're going to come back just as dysregulated and even more angrier perhaps. But if you take that 20 minutes and really, do some adhkar, do some istighfar, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, make sincere dua and say, Allah, I want this to be a moment of reconnection with my partner. I don't want to escalate. Think well of your partner. Think of them as a human being. Have mercy, because mercy is easy to have when you love them. It's much harder to have when you don't love them. Pull out that mercy, apply it, and when you go back into that conversation, re-engage with the intent of positive outcome, not to prove a point. Remember, it's us versus the problem. What does it take to solve the problem? The ability for us to figure it out together. I'll give you guys a pro tip. Majority of your conflict is not solvable anyways, because if it was, it wouldn't have become a conflict. So when you get to a conflict, now we need to disengage emotionally, and we need to look at it logically, and we need to problem solve. And a lot of the times we need to agree to disagree. And we need to get okay with that too. That's fine. Sometimes if a conflict comes to a point where you can't resolve it, you have to take emotional stock and ask yourself, is it worth the fight? Is it worth the argument? Or is it better to just let this go and do what is best in the outcome of our relationship? Okay, I'm gonna end it on this. These are the 3 keys to relationship success. Okay, if I was going to introduce you to 3 concepts from Islamic, rooted in Islamic knowledge, I was going to introduce you to these 3 things: shukr, ihsan, and tawakkul. Always be a grateful person. Grateful for the things that are good in life, and grateful for the things that are not good. Understand that gratitude is underutilized, but very exceptional in its practice. When we are grateful, Allah is pleased with us. And there are far more great things to be grateful for than there are for us to be upset about. If we start actually being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the list would be so long, it would take us so much time, we would even forget our problems. Practice gratitude. The modern psychology says make gratitude lists. Make gratitude lists. Why? Because it'll teach your brain to focus on the things that are good rather than to focus on the things that are not so good. And alhamdulillah, we are all very blessed. We have plenty to be grateful for. The second thing is ihsan. Ihsan is excellence in our practice. Don't be transactional. Don't be transactional with Allah, that, I will be a good Muslim only if Allah is good to me. And if I'm facing hardship, then I'm going to withdraw. Don't do that. And just like that, practice excellence in your relationship. Don't be a good husband or a good wife because your partner is good. Be a good husband or a wife because that is what will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your goodness in a time of hardship is more pleasing to Allah than your goodness when things are easy. Practice goodness towards your partner without taking account. And that's a very hard thing to do. To practice goodness without keeping score is the hardest thing to do, but if you can unlock that level that I do this for the sake of Allah, I apologize for the sake of Allah, I mend my marriage for the sake of Allah. I'm not mending it because, hey, if I'm good to him, then he'll take me out or he'll come with me to this party. No. I'm good to him because Allah will be pleased with me. Everything else will follow. But I am good for the sake of Allah, because Allah is watching and Allah is knowing and Allah is the keeper of accounts till the day of judgment. And then the last thing is have tawakkul. Have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not every day is going to be a good day. I feel like younger marriages are actually at real high risk because what they see on Instagram and TikTok of what marriage is supposed to be like is so toxic and unhealthy and fake that when they're actually dealing with their own relationships, they don't even know how to be married because they're automatically unhappy. Have tawakkul with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah wrote your story with this person, if Allah wrote this person's name next to yours, there is wisdom behind it. And I'm not saying that everybody gets the happily ever after. Some people actually really don't. But just keep reminding yourself that your partner is sent to you to fulfill your ultimate love story with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes through gratitude and wellness and sometimes through sabr. But it is all intended for one reason and one reason alone, is so that Allah is pleased with you. And I will say this though, that sometimes some marriages are not meant to work out. And alhamdulillah, that's okay as well. If you have done everything that you have, and you have given it everything that you've got, and you've learned, and you've advised, and you've sought out advice, you've done it all. If it still doesn't work, alhamdulillah. But at least in your heart you know that you are a grateful person who gave it everything that they had and then trusted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. That is enough for Allah, and that is inshallah enough for us as well. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for having me over. I know that Maghrib is 15 minutes away or 14 minutes away. We can use the remainder time for whatever questions we might have.